mean, it's cool because, kids our age should realize that local politics is like really important. Traditionally, midterm elections are kind of lackluster compared to like presidential elections. It's not as easy for folks who live here as it would be for other folks in different parts of town.
Like, we actually had somebody, when I came here at like 2:45, there was somebody here waiting for it to be 3 o'clock to come register to vote, and her husband was like sitting in a car waiting for her outside.
I'm just gonna throw a big wave. Have you all been asked that important question? Have you all been registered to vote?
Yeah.
Go on and vote, please.
So the Rising American Electorate is comprised of 3 groups. People of color, young people between the ages of 18 and 29, and then single women. They tend to be in the lower economic tiers of our society. And I think the most important piece is that these are the populations of the fastest growing in the country, which means that their engagement with how our politics work will really determine the future of this country.
It suggests the need for some real honest conversation, regardless of race, regardless of class. This is America. And the most powerful tool in a democratic society is this whole radical idea of one person, one vote. And we have to do everything to make sure that that's true for everybody.
The concept is to have people drive up and register to vote without getting out their car, just trying to make it real convenient for them.
Basically, they got to hear from the people. And people have to understand that they can get on the phone and talk to somebody like a human being. Maybe their voice will be heard. But when you have anger in your heart, anger in your mind about what's going on around you and what's about happening, crime, people change their agenda in life and bringing up their families, and so many families here alone are being affected.
I'm hopeful as long as they understand the importance of it and not just, my vote doesn't count or I only vote during presidential elections. So I know we have a lot of work to do, but I know we can do it.
We're the Georgia Association of Latino Elected Officials. Back in 2003, there was only 10,000 registered Latinos to vote. Nowadays, it's 220,000, and there's 80,000 that are eligible that have not registered, and there's 100,000 that could become citizens but haven't yet. So that's significant because if you look at the past elections for president here in the state, Mitt Romney won those by 300,000 votes. That means that the Latinos could be the deciding factor in all local elections. Tonight there's going to be a concert. Rise Against is going to be playing, and then we're going to be registering voters. More than likely young people that are coming to the venue, and we're just going to be engaging them to go out and vote and to register.
It allows us to have a say. It allows us to say if we don't agree with something the government's doing, we can vote them out. We can put something new in. We can influence economic policy. We can influence voting policy. We can influence all kinds of things. And that's the great thing about democracy.
This is the biggest, one of the biggest centers for immigrants, Asians, especially with the Indians. They're the biggest population in Atlanta right now as far as Asian Americans. A lot of them don't know that. They think they're kind of in their own little world.
We are celebrating the festival of oneness, trying to bring the whole, all different faiths together on one place. We are not telling that you change your faith. We are asking you to come together, respect each other, and respect the other people too, whatever their faith is.
This is a Diwali Mela. This is a big Indian festival right before Diwali. And we're just here getting people registered to vote if they need to register, and help them through any questions they have. From the people who are just become citizens, they usually want to register and they're eager. But most people that we found are already registered, so then we'll send them a little reminder a couple of days before the election to just, hey, go out and vote.
I see the growth because I'm here from 1988, and when 88 we were only at 15,000. Now I heard the number has gone up to close to 200,000 Indians, Asians from all that part of the world. It's a great big growth, and most of us are in the IT, and most of us are in the business community, which is growing every day. And because I'm a real estate broker, and I can see that growth, keep on going.
I'm a naturalized citizen too, so I think once you come over here, I think it's important to assimilate, become an American. They come over here because they want a new life, but they don't want to leave their culture. That's kind of how America was formed. It's like a melting pot. People from everywhere coming in together and all becoming one. But I think still people want to separate. They want to be like, oh, this is our little world, and that's why we have these places. Oh, this is Chinatown, this is Koreatown, this is Indiatown. I think this is good, but essentially it makes people separate. And what you need to have is people coming together.
There's a lot of apathy that's gone on since the president was elected in 2008, and the unprecedented polarization and the separation of the two parties. It is so all or nothing. It's just really ridiculous.
There's a lot of things that separate us. The racial line, financial line. It's a lot of things that separate us as the people. We choose. We have a right to choose, and we do choose to stay separate. Age is another line. Politics, another line. We all choose. I think that we need to bury these lines, man. We got to bury these lines now, man, if we ever wish to have a future.
People are really, really angry on both sides. Like, everyone is furious pretty much all the time. And I don't have a solution to that at all, but I think that it's got to be partially education.
It's true.
And that is what's changing in the
We're
South.
very segregated, and Georgia is still very segregated.
It is.
Segregation is a huge problem.
If you look at our constitutional offices, and right now every single person in statewide elected office in the state of Georgia is a white man who is, I think I can say it safely, is over the age of 45. The white population only comprises 55% of our state. Is that as we go through an electoral shift, as we go through demographic shifts, we run the very real risk of hitting a bubble where we will have a rising American electorate majority, but a body politic that is controlled by a minority that is not only oppositional to the needs of that community, but is actually very ideologically opposed, that can cripple communities for generations.
Dynamic where people will say, well, I'm not going to vote because nothing in my community ever changes. And for me, that's very frustrating. You are allowing a few people to make the decisions for you. And it's very frustrating for me as an African-American woman to hear African-Americans say they're not going to vote, they're going to disengage. A lot of people are disappointed because they had unrealistic expectations or expected instant gratification when a black man was elected president.
I don't really see a bright future. I don't see a bright future unless we bury these lines, man. Right now it's in the 2000s, man, 2014, 2015, man. We really got to do away with this, man. It's prejudice. We really have to do away with feeling that you're not my brother, then I'm not your brother. We have to really do away with that. I fought side by side. He's from Iowa. My best friend's from Iowa, Joshua Carr. He was a soldier. I'm out now. He's out. We fought side by side. We ate together. We drank out the same cup together. I believe that close quarters broke down those lines. I think that we all are in close quarters. Right now we're in close quarters. We're in society. I think that the only thing that's holding us back is ourselves.
It's just really crazy because now people are paranoid, and people are already paranoid. Nobody trusts government. So now people don't trust groups like us because they think we're marauding bands of voter ID thieves.
He went on to speak as if any move that has the potential of turning out more black voters is inherently partisan. Well, my rejoinder is it's only inherently partisan if you have decided that you do not intend to engage black voters, that you have written them off, that they are not a part of your ideas for the state of Georgia, and you see no way that you can convince them. Black voters are intelligent voters. They read the newspapers and make decisions about what's best for them the way every other voter does.
We need to be a state that focuses on values versus race. Race-based politics cannot be sustained. But values-based politics, that's what transforms the community. And so for me, the goal has always been to not only do the work of getting these folks registered, but to do the deeper job of civic engagement and civic education, because we cannot afford as a state to be polarized by race. And diversity is not simply a buzzword. There's an intentionality to it. Having to think more broadly than just my personal benefit makes me a better person. And so I would not be doing my job well if I focused exclusively on one community. You've been told that everyone that is not like you is trying to hurt you. They're trying to take your country. They're trying to take your job. They're trying to take your child. They're trying to take your health care. There's this sense that you are under attack. And that polarization, if you start to believe it, if that rhetoric is effective, that this is not a zero-sum game. We are not living in a time of deep scarcity. We're living in a time of change. Scarcity assumes that there's no winning. Change simply assumes that you win a different way. And that's what this comes down to. It comes down to a power dynamic where those in charge do not want to lose their power to those they have never bothered to speak to.
The reason why the school to prison pipeline has even come about has been through some really legislation that got forced through and just didn't have a lot of common sense attached to it. And so we really do see the electoral power as where the change needs to happen. We need to get young people registered to vote. We need to get young people engaged and aware of these issues. And we need to get them out to the polls. We know that young people have a lot of power, and we just need to fully utilize it in Georgia. So that's why we're out here today at this march and rally. Along with bringing awareness to this issue, we're going to be registering young folks to vote and hopefully make an impact on this issue, along with many others in Georgia.
The Latino community is demanding respect right now because a lot of times we're treated like criminals, and when we're not, we need to be educated. And the Latino community at this moment is, I guess, feeling persecuted, and there's some degree of fear because they started implementing Arizona-style laws here in Georgia. So everybody's kind of like coming out of the shadows now and starting to, okay, let's reorganize, let's see what happened, and now we're growing strong.
Especially with local elections, you have way more power than you think. I mean, just with the LGBTQ community in Georgia, if you look at the last governor race, he was elected with 250,000 votes. We have 300,000 LGBT Georgians that live in the state. So obviously we have the power to swing elections. We have the power to change and influence the results. We just need to get our people out there. We need to get our people activated and just out there to vote.
But honestly, I feel great about it. It's pretty embarrassing. I'm like very enthusiastic about it. I'm so stoked that anybody registered to vote. And we had like a bunch of first-time people. Like we had a bunch of people who had never registered in any city, including several of my friends, which I would have thought I would have like beat them over the head about it before, but apparently not.
It would be transformational. In Georgia, the rising American electorate comprises roughly 62% of the voting age population. If that population voted its power, it would determine every election in the state of Georgia going forward. My intent is to engage as many Georgians as possible in our civic life.
We are actually forming an alliance with different groups: African Americans, Asian community, LGBT, young people, women. But young people are a significant amount because the majority of people that we have registered has been at colleges and universities. And we're trying to educate them about, the importance of voting. The change is coming, and I think that young people are starting to wake up and, take responsibility for their government, for their political system.
So I really do feel like, us getting organized and talking to each other, it's going to be a progressive front rather than just, gay rights or racial justice. It's going to be all of these things and more, which is really, really exciting to be a part of that at this time.
Parts have to work in unison. We're not working in unison yet. But I don't lose faith because it's not something we can't overcome. We just have to take a pause, focus, get strategize, become unified, and then execute a strategy. And I see that coming together. 14, it's starting to come together. 16, I think it's going to be fantastic. And then 20, 18 and 20, man, Georgia is going to be a great place. I just hope I'm alive long enough.
This is going to be a critical year for Georgia. It's a critical year for the country. And now is the time for this population to understand its electoral power and start flexing that muscle. because we've got some big elections coming up in 2016 and 2018 and 2020, so that when redistricting happens in 2021, the people in the majority of the population control the decisions about their elected representatives.
Well, this is a time that's fraught with a host of issues, polarization, deep partisanship that does not encourage cooperation and participation across the aisle. But I think it's also a very exciting time in America, and it's certainly an exciting time in the South. We are witnessing a kind of sweeping change, gradual but certain, in terms of demographics. And my hope as a faith leader, as a citizen, that this will force all of us into having the kinds of uncomfortable conversations that Americans very often are hard-pressed to have.
I hope for a really engaged and informed electorate. I want to have the diversity of our people who actually live in Georgia represented in our laws and who's in power. I want to have young people in power, and I want to have more women in power. I mean, I want everybody to have an equal chance, and instead of just seeing the same people over and over and over down at the Capitol.
You guys need to vote. Everybody needs to actually vote. It actually matters. People need to freaking vote. Like, grow up, be an adult, put on your big kid pants and vote. Like, I don't want to hear about it. Just freaking vote. It doesn't matter.
Right, hipsters, this we are serving the hipster community here as much as we're serving like the minority community, whatever. But this is a very hipster, like, centric part of town, and so we want to tell hipsters, like, look, you're a voting bloc, you're an important part of this country. You love to bitch about stuff that you don't like. You love to complain about things that you think are, askew. Well, go ahead and actually do something about it. Like, go ahead and
Yep.
have a reason to be able to complain about something. If you're not voting in elections, and you have no right to complain about anything.
Yeah, I vote all the time, and it makes me allowed to complain a lot.
Exactly.
So that's great.
For people to get involved in the process, for more people to get involved, for elderly people, for people of color, for students to get involved in the process, puts pressure on both political parties. It's a terrible thing to be in a situation in which one party writes you off completely and ignores you, and the other takes you for granted. I think we change the nature of the political conversation when we bring more people to the table and we hear more voices. And so that's what's really at stake for us.
We have directly registered 87,000, and we have funded partner groups that will bring our total registration for this year alone to 120,000. I think my party will do a better job of articulating a reason for these communities to vote with our party. But the reality is voter registration is nonpartisan. The Republican Party in Georgia has made a big show of its minority outreach, and if they are doing as well as they say they are, they have an opportunity to convert 120,000 new voters to their side.
I'm hoping that everyone gets a chance to vote and make a difference and to actively participate. I think that voting rights should be expanded. I think it should be more than just one day. I think it should be a national holiday. It makes me feel as though I am, again, actively participating in a process that can help everyone. People have fought, African American people have fought for the right to vote. So by not voting, I feel as though I'm dishonoring the sacrifices that have been made on my behalf. So I feel a sense of real obligation and responsibility to continue what has been done for me, and in hopes that by me doing this, it'll be a model for my children, young people, to the importance of what it is. And one vote can make a difference. If we don't work together and do something positive, we're all going to suffer in the end. So that's what I'm hoping that, people do decide to vote, to get involved, and get young people excited.
Yes.
Okay, I got you in the system. I'm gonna give you this right here. This is for your documentation. You go to Champion Theme Middle School.
Yes.
That's where you'll be voting.
Yeah. Okay.
And these are all your information in the system. This your first time registering?
No, I registered before and I don't have an address.
Okay. I pulled you up as a